Hi, this is Dave Dirks, co-author of the book, The New Marketing Analytics. You know, when my co-author and I, Frank Keschlein, started to work on this book, we realized that probably one of the most important things that's often overlooked in organizations as they start to realize that they have valuable data and want to understand how that data can be used to further the goals and the ambitions and the vision of the organization, they often forget there's a really important point, and it's called data governance. Data governance is, as we simply define it, is really sort of the rule of law, the structure and the processes of how information is shared and is used and is managed across the enterprise. Now, we've often said this, I've said this in previous video clips, oftentimes I've seen over the years in various companies that I've worked with that information is very siloed. Different departments, different regions of the company, different divisions, and even different parts of the globe. Everybody harbors data pertinent to where they are specifically, but it often remains very siloed. The other challenge that's there too is that often you have different data systems. So you have one data system that can't talk to another. So it might be often difficult to share data necessarily or easily between different parts of the organization because they don't use the same systems. There are a whole host of issues that really need to be cleaned up and worked out before a whole lot of money and effort are really spent on making data analytics and eventually marketing analytics work to help drive revenue and drive profitability in an organization. So let's start out with this. First of all, the largest and biggest piece of the pie here is the C-suite, whether it's the CEO and all of the senior officers, the most senior people in the organization, should be the ones that start to put together the kind of the rules of the road of how data will be governed within the organization. It's the who, what, why, when, where, and how organization is distributed, how it's managed, how it's curated, how it's updated, all those things. They're very important. So the data that comes from the C-suite, and out of that emerges what we would like to call the formation of a data governance team. The data governance team is really the key team that manages and works through data issues on an ongoing basis. It's sort of a permanent cross-functional team made up of people from across the organization who have interests in the data. And, once it becomes known that we want to share that data, that we don't want to silo that data, we want to figure out ways to partner with other parts of the organization so we can all learn together how to further each of our areas' interests. The data governance team is really designed to make sure that that happens. It's also the key team that kind of referees issues as they come up, and invariably issues will come up in terms of, new data streams come in. What do we do? How do we handle it? Who owns what? How is data distributed? Whatever it might be, the data governance team meets on a regular basis, and in front of it are those issues that need to be resolved, and hopefully they're resolved, and you keep moving on. Once you have a fairly well articulated strategy for handling and managing data within your organization, and you set up a data governance team to manage it. Again, it's a cross-functional team across the organization, so a lot of different people are represented there. The most important thing you can do after that is inventory all of the data that you have within the enterprise. You've got to catalog it. You've got to understand where it is. You got to understand what legacy system it might be hidden in. Wherever the data is, it needs to be inventoried. People need to understand what data is available, where it's at, and how it can be accessed, and all those things that are necessary in order to be able to understand what are we managing. Why is it important? The other thing, too, is there are often different levels of data analytics going on in different parts of the organization already. We're not saying that there's no, you're starting at ground zero. Oftentimes in a company, even mid-size and larger companies for sure, there's a certain amount of data analytics work that's already going on, but it might be isolated to a specific department. Maybe just the marketing team is doing something around marketing analytics, data analytics, but maybe other departments aren't. So you really need to understand who's doing what and with what information or data are they doing it with. sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how often it's a surprise to the CEO or to the COO that there's a lot of great work being done in one area of the company, but that's not necessarily being filtered up or down or out to other parts of the company as well. But there's a lot to be learned by that. And then, of course, the other issue that you often deal with is that there's always new streams of data coming into the organization. The data governance team is really designed to kind of understand, how do we handle this data? Where is it coming from? How often is it updated? How would this data be important to and to whom? And how to make it available. And this might be a new unstructured data source. It might be a new structured data source, wherever. Often with when companies acquire each other, obviously there's new data that is now part of the larger enterprise. That's another area where, making sure that you inventory the data, make sure you understand what data analytics are already going on. It's very important. And then, of course, like I said, the data governance team is really kind of the center of gravity, and the data governance policy or strategy is really sort of the part of it that keeps the glue that keeps everything together. And again, that's updated on a regular basis. So data governance, really important. We think it's important to articulate data governance issues and work on that whole series of issues before a whole lot of money is spent. Better to do it that way than to find that you're hamstrung or because one part of the organization is not freely offering their information to another. Okay, I hope you've learned something from this. Again, we always encourage you, of course, to take a look at and buy the new Marketing Analytics. A lot of the data that I've talked about today on marketing or data governance is in the book, and we appreciate your time today. Have a great day.